Good morning, everybody. We've got a new video we're going to do today over percent and percent change, percent error, how to find simple interest, how to change your percent rate. Like if you've got a rate on a loan for 3.4% and you need to change that to a decimal, we're going to talk about how to change that to a decimal. I'm going to use the calculator that you get to use on your milestone and show you exactly what buttons to change those fractions to a decimal, decimal to a fraction, and your percent to a fraction and then to a decimal. So that will help you on percent change, percent error, and simple interest whenever you need to multiply those percentages. All right, so let's get started with some easy ones. We're going to start with changing 1/5, the fraction 1/5, to a decimal. So 1/5 is actually 1 divided by 5. Remember, the top number is always being divided by the bottom number. If you were to put that in the calculator, it would give you a decimal. But in your calculator, you can put 1/5 as a fraction. And then everybody in class has learned about that second button. The second button is this little green button that you've got right up here in the corner. That second button gives you all the tools that are on the back of the calculator. So you can see real tiny on the top of the buttons those green letters, those green words, right? So when you hit the second button, you don't get the white function, you get the little green function. So if you type in 1/5 as a fraction in your calculator, 1/5, then you can change this to a decimal by hitting your second button, and then your fraction to decimal button is right here. It says table, and then above it, it's got a little F to D. So you can change a fraction to a decimal or a decimal to fraction easily by mashing that button and then by hitting the enter button. And it changed 1/5 to 0.2. All right, so that is 0.20. 1/5 is actually 0.2. So that's easy. Remember, just hit the second button. It is fraction to decimal, and then it will give you 0.2. You can also do that if you want to change your decimal to a fraction. You can hit 0.2 in the calculator and then hit the second button, the F to D. That's on the green in the back. It actually says table in white on your calculator, and then that will give it to you as a fraction, which is 1/5. A lot of times you want to do this if you have a huge equation and you don't want to put in fractions and decimals in the equation. You want to make them all decimals or all fractions because maybe you want to see least to greatest, or maybe you want to put them in order on a number line. It's hard to put fractions and decimals on the same number line unless you make them the same format. So if you've got 0.2 and 1/6 and 0.74 and 3/10, I would change all of those to either all fractions or either all decimals so that you know how and in what order they went on the number line, right? So that's one thing that you need to know how to do. Another one is percentages. We're doing a lot of percentages this year, and you have to know how to write your percentages as decimals, because when you want to find 33% of anything, you are going to change the percent to a decimal and then multiply it by that, right? By whatever number it is. Let's do 33% of $52. All right, if we want to find 33% of $52, you have to change that 33% to a decimal. Well, you write 33% as a decimal like this, 33%. That's the same as 33 over 100 because percent literally means per 100 or the number out of 100. That's a percentage. So you would do 0.33 times 52 in your calculator. 52 times 0.33, and that gives you 15.6. That means that 15.6 is 33% of $52. So this year we're learning like sale prices or how to add taxes to something or add a service charge. Well, if it said that it was 33% off of $52, 33% off of $52, you still have to find what 33% is, and we did. That's $15.06. But if it says 33% off of $52, you take that amount away from $52. So if it's off, then you do $52 minus $15.60. 52 minus, in your calculator, 1560 is $36.40, and that would be the new sale price that you would pay. All right. Remember, if it says a percentage off, you find that percent and you can take that away, and then that's going to be the price. All right, let's do another one where you add a percentage. You guys actually are taking a test on this today, so let me just choose one of those test questions, and that way we'll have a really good, accurate representation of what you need to know. All right, this is on your lesson 20 quiz. It says that you are going to pay $14 plus 10% sales tax. $14 plus 10% sales tax. Well, if it says plus, that doesn't mean that we're going to take 10% away, does it? That means that we're going to find 10% and add it to the $14. We learned in class that to find 10% of anything, you just take a zero away or you move the decimal to the left one time. So this one doesn't have a zero, so 10% of 14 is $1.40. We practice that in class a lot. So if 10% is $1.40, but it says plus sales tax, are we going to add or subtract that $1.40? We're going to add it. So we've got $14 plus $1.40 is $15.40. That's just like when your parents go to the store and they have to buy things. The original price, the starting price is $14, but then they've got to pay for tax, and so they're not paying $14 when they go up to the register. They're paying plus tax $15.40, right? Remember the words percentage off or plus. You've got to find that percent and either add or subtract, okay? All right, we're learning simple interest. Simple interest has a formula. You've got to remember this formula whenever you do your milestones. The simple interest formula is interest equals P times R times T. All right, this is the interest formula that you have to remember. This interest is when you take the principal. Principal is the original amount that is on the sticker when you go to buy something. So I'm going to write OG amount. That's like when you go see a car at the car dealership and the price is $14,000. That's just the principal. That's the original amount. Rate is the percentage rate that your parents get or you'll get on something whenever you get a loan for anything. So the bank will give you a 3.5% rate or a 15% rate, and that is what the R stands for. R is for whatever rate you get. So for this one, let's use 3.4%. Your rate is given as a percent, but in class, we learned that we will not use the percentage. You've got to change that rate to a decimal. 3.4% is written like this, 0.034. You've got to know how to write those percentages as a decimal, all right? In order to know how to change your percent to a decimal, all you've got to do is move the decimal to the left 2 times. So 3.4% written as a decimal, move it to the left 2 times is 0.034, right? It's easy. Just move the decimal to the left 2 times if you're trying to change your percent to a decimal. Lastly is T, and T represents time. That's how long the loan is going to be for. So time is always represented in years, and you've got to make sure that that's in years. If it gives it to you like 3 months, then you would write it 3 over 12. So if it gives it to you in months, you would write 3 over 12 because there are 3 months out of a year, and so that would be 1/4 or 0.75. Now, if it's just given to you in years, say 3 years, then you would just write down the 3. Okay, so here, now we've got our P, our R, and our T. You multiply your P, R, and T to find simple interest. So you would do 14,000 times 0.034 times 3, and that would give you the interest that you would have to pay on top of your loan. So 14,000, I'm going to do it in the calculator for you. 14,000 times 0.034 times 3 gives us 1428. If you've got a calculator at home or you're doing this, that is the interest rate that you've got to pay. Now, if I go buy a car for $14,000, am I only going to go up to the register or the office and say, okay, $1,428, is that what I'm going to pay? No, that's just the interest added to the original amount. So if your word problem on this milestone says, what's the total amount that you're going to pay for this car with a 3.4% after 3 years, it will not be the simple interest. It will be the simple interest added to $14,000. So that will not be the total. The total will be your original amount or your principal, $14,000, plus $1,428. And that will be the price that you pay for that car at the end, which would be $15,428. You've got to remember to add the original amount to the interest, and that's the total. Okay, that's simple interest. That'll be it for today. Or for this video. I'm going to do another video with percent change and percent error and those formulas so that you can remember how to do that. All right, so make sure you're taking notes on this. I'm giving you all the tools that I possibly can for practice. If you want additional worksheets, you can look those up online. There's tons of problems. Guys, that ChatGPT is amazing. If you want to say in there, hey, give me a 7th grade math problem over simple interest, then it will, and that's good practice for you. Your education a lot of times is in your own hands. I'm going to be here to help you every step of the way. Here's my video, and I've got you in class, but you can study further at home on your own. All right, have a good day. See you next time.